As I was sitting there listening to speeches, I looked around this wonderful room, and I know we'll have a chance to see some of the other rooms in this state-of-the-art Boys and Girls Club, number 2,000 Boys and Girls Club. I thought to myself, I see all that steel, I see all that cinder block work and electrical work and air conditioning work, and it takes about this much stuff to make a jail. Scott, what do you say? And that's what we've been doing too much of in recent years. We've been using this kind of material and treasure to build jails to put our children in eventually. No other civilized nation in the world has as many people in jail as we have in jail. So we need more mentors. We need more places like this where the community comes together and says to the young people of the community, and especially in this neighborhood here, we care about you. Because you see, what these young people are seeing, not just a nice place to play basketball or in the computer room to run a software program. They don't see steel and cinder blocks alone. What they see are people who care about them. What they see are people who love them. What they see are people who have expectations of them and about them and will not let them fail. We do not have anything more important to do than to protect youngsters like this and put them on the road to success. The choice is very simple. We either build our children or we build more jails. It's time to stop building jails and get back to what we know how to do as Americans, and that's to build our children.
Hello, welcome to Our Children. My name is Beverly Gilchrist, and I have two wonderful people here that will be talking to you about the huddle at NAN, National Action Network. We'll be talking to you about, as far we have an expert here on Black history, and many other things. This is my way of platforming the youth. And I'm so happy to introduce you to Dominique Johnson and Mr. James Gray. I'm going to step out and let them have the show. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Dominique. I'm Teen Huddle Rep. So, Mr. Gray, what inspired you? Well, what is your profession? What do you do?
I do a lot, specifically with the National Action Network, Youth Huddle directly. I'm the young adult representative, and that's more like a mentor type of position. We encourage the youth to be involved and interactive with many different levels of engagement. We have a lot of issues involving current events, political issues, social, environmental issues, and what we do. Well, of course, but just giving an overall an overview. One of the things that really got me involved with the Youth Huddle was, of course, Ashley Sharpton, Reverend Sharpton's daughter. She had approached me, and she said, we need somebody like you in the huddle to kind of bring a different dynamic, more positive, progressive, and that's right up my alley, and I really wanted to help her, and I wanted to be a part of something positive that was going to influence the youth. I've always been proactive when it comes to the youth. I've inspired a lot of youth who end up, going on and doing big and better things. That actually empowers me more by being able to do that, and this was like a perfect opportunity. And I think the National Action Network as a whole was the perfect organization. A lot of things in life about timing. I think that I came in at a good time and was able to make add a contribution to an already existing organization that was very proactive. So it kind of went from just me being involved with youth to me opening up the Saturday morning rally with the civil rights highlight segment, and I think I'm on like three or four different committees now, you know. And some people are like, oh man, you're doing a lot, but I still think I'm not doing enough, you know. I just like to capitalize and be as on point as I can, but always, you know, pushing towards the positive perspective in every situation.
So, you talk about timing. So, what was that time where you was like, well, I want to be a part of the youth due to X, Y, and Z, due to the youth needs me. So, what was that timing and why?
Well, in our society today, you know, it couldn't be a better timing to identify with with this time and the youth in order to interject and come in and try to, you know, make a change. Like, this is the best time. It's always time when it comes to the youth, but now we're at even more of a need. I think we even need more progressive black males in leadership positions to influence the youth. I think that's something that's very important, and that's why I'm so serious about that myself. I was very fortunate to have people in my life like Mr. Gilchrist and my father, uncles, and powerful black figures who, you know, reached out to me and let me know that they were there for me. And I think that a lot of these young children just need to know that you got their back, that you really are concerned about their well-being. You know, I think this is all it would take in some cases for them to realize, wow, you know, somebody cares about me. You know, there's so many things that are unsaid and, of course, undone. But when somebody knows how you feel, you know, because of the generation gap, there's a distance. You know, oh, that old man, he don't know what he's talking about. Or the old man is like, oh, it's these young whippersnappers, you know. And it goes, it's like, you know, night and day.
Mm.
So we got to bridge the gap, and I think that getting involved with the youth on that level, just creating a dialogue sometimes is all it takes to unlock that lock that's been locked for so long.
So how do you do that when there's like children, for example, in my community, where they don't have the proper home situation, where they don't have a parent to tell you, well, we love you, and I think that you should do this for X, Y, and Z reasons because it will benefit you in the future. So if those kids don't have that person in their ear or that strong individual to tell them, how do we do that?
Well, sometimes you got to understand, some of the worst children are the ones who are deeply inside, are crying out for the most attention and the most help. Depending on the level of attention that they get, if they get the attention from the OG who's, you know, the head of the gang, then that's a whole nother level. But if he gets that attention from the mentor who's going to be able to influence him in a positive perspective, then you can see a really good outcome. You know what I'm saying? I just, you know, always hope that the right influence presents itself. You know, it doesn't always happen. Sometimes you got to go through different channels in order to identify with, you know, where you really need to be at. Then at some point in time, you have to develop an accountability factor within yourself and say, hold on, things are not going the way I want them to go. I know this is not the right thing to do. Maybe I should try this, or maybe I should get with this person, you know. And, you know, at some point in time, you know, you have to take that initiative. Before that, I think it's very helpful to have some kind of guidance in order to, you know, steer you towards that water that hopefully you drink, you know, like the horse saying goes, you know. So, you know, a lot of people think that, a lot of people give up on the youth, and that's another bad thing, you know.
Why do you think so?
Because sometimes, you know, this is an evolving progression of society, of life, which there are things going on now that never went on before. And older people, you know, sometimes can't identify with these things as normal or even understand how this is even happening.
Right.
You know, so they're like, you know what, I don't got nothing to do with none of this. And that whole, you know, rejection is that person or that those people, those children, the youth who was like, you know, when everybody's like, yo, we hands off, we don't have nothing to do with that. These kids are crazy. You know, but it got this way because of so many people saying the same thing. You know, I'm not blaming the elderly generation or anything like that.
Right.
I just think that at some point in time we got to bridge the gap because there's such a divide all the way across the board. You know, there are some people that have irreparable damage, but you know, I don't think that nobody deserves to go to jail for the rest of their life. You know, for a crime that was committed as an adolescent or a youth. You know, a couple of years from being incarcerated from 16 to 18 to 20, you're not that same 16-year-old. You know, and by that time you're like, damn, I can't believe what happened. You know, I'm caught up in the system now, which is a revolving door. You know, and that school to prison pipeline is real.
Yep.
You know, this prison economic structure is serious. There's people that are actually benefiting financially from people being in jail.
Right.
You know, and this is the whole privatized prison thing, and it goes all the way from, you know, this young generation now is like the perfect catalyst for the prison pipeline because they are misplaced a lot of times. You know, there's a certain percentage of foster children that are automatically going to end up in prison.
Yep.
You know, so you got to look at all these factors, which is why a lot of a lot of people came together and said, you know, we're going to create an infrastructure for this to be beneficial. You know what I'm saying? So for every bed in this jail, you know, there's a certain amount of money that we're able to receive for housing this prisoner. You know, and if we get a certain amount of beds, that equals a certain amount of money. We really don't care how they got here or what happens with them, but this is a business now.
Yeah.
You know, so, and that's a whole nother topic in itself. But,
yeah.
You know.
My brother was explaining to me, my oldest brother incarcerated, he makes less than like 10 cents a day, and he does like mostly like hardware, making like license plates and chairs and stuff like that. And we was just having a conversation about how corrupted the system is. Like they make so less of a money, not so much money.
Yeah.
But you know, this system, they get trillions of dollars due to them working. So how do you think that could be better? How do you think that could be beneficial? How it can be beneficial?
Well, the whole aspect of prison is something that's it's not progressive in any kind of way. There's no rehabilitation going on in prison. A lot of times prisoners go to, if you see the movie Blow, this guy went in for selling weed and found out how to become a professional cocaine smuggler and trafficker. He got this education in prison. And this happens a lot of times, you know, with people come in with lesser crimes and then they're around hardened criminals. They say, yo, man, this is how you do this. And when they leave, they're like, okay, now I know how to do something even more legal, so even better than somebody who's in here. You know, so the education that they might get is a lot of times worse. You know, you might come in and, you know, become a victim, be targeted, you know, and during that whole process, you leave as somebody who's an aggressor or who attacks people because of your experience in prison. I don't think the proper rehabilitation is going on, especially not because a lot of prisoners are in jail for nonviolent drug offenses. Yeah. And this is like the worst thing ever. If somebody commits a murder and they can get out of jail before somebody who sold drugs. Yeah. You know, and this is the big thing that Obama's talking about now, these nonviolent drug offenses that people are getting life sentences for, you know, and even a lot of states have this habitual offender law, which says, you know, after a certain point in time, 3 strikes, you're out. The 3rd strike could be your parking ticket. You know, nobody thinks about it that way. Corrupted. You know, the habitual offender laws, they don't care what that 3rd strike is. Jaywalking, hopefully not that, but I mean, it's to the point where there's a lady doing a life right now, and her 3rd strike was violation of parole. You know, I don't think that's reasonable. You know, so you know, there's a lot of damage done, but there's still hope. There always is, especially for the youth, because there's a lot of youth who made it out or went through trials and tribulations and then still overcame And deep down, a lot of those people have the heart to want to be in the lives of youth who are in trouble. For instance, my mother works at a children's prison upstate. And, my mother had 9 children. So she had to be a warden, a prison guard, or on that level of rearing children effectively to the point of, being able to do it successful. So, and she was very psychological about things. It wasn't so much of beating. She would test you and give you,
Wise.
Yeah, and that kind of helped us to not, put up that block. We would analyze everything she said, because she could really kind of twist something in a way that make you think about what you're about to do or what you did. And just thinking sometimes is all it takes for you to, take a second thought to rationalize whether you want to do this or not.
Right.
So my mother used to promote the thinking process and force us to think and really develop that accountability factor within ourselves, which is why we still have it going out into the world. And my mother, she was really good at dealing with troubled youth. And she really didn't have any troubled youth out of all her children because of the way she would go about handling situations.
Right.
So now she's even more of an asset outside of rearing her children to other children. My mother's reached children, thousands of children who are now adults now, who come back to her and thank her for the talks and being there and really caring. Like I said before, sometimes it's just really as simple as a youth knowing that you care.
Hey, that's what it takes.
Yeah.
So the convention is coming up, as we know.
Yeah. It's going to be really exciting. 25th anniversary of the NAN National Action Network, and I think it's going to be real big. And I'm glad I'm going to be a part of it, as I was last year. Definitely would love to get on a few panels because I have a lot of experience on different levels. For instance, I am producing a documentary right now about police brutality. It's about the prison economic structure. It's about the school to prison pipeline. It's about what's the name of it? There's so many. It's like about 5 different categories that we're touching. A lot of them are dealing with prison. A lot of them focus on police brutality. I was a victim of police brutality, and this is one of the things that really really motivated me to do a piece about police brutality. Sometimes it takes a person to be directly affected by a situation to really kind of stand on it and say, whoa, I can't believe this is going on. Like, you hear about it, but sometimes when it affects you directly is when you say, wow.
Right.
Me, I couldn't believe that it's just happening to so many young, especially African-American males, who didn't have the representation, the resources that I did. I was fortunate enough to win a settlement against NYPD in my case. Really wanted to go all the way to trial because I was innocent.
Right.
And for me to come all this far to 33 years and then start to commit crimes, that doesn't even sound,
accurate.
So why would I come all the way this far and do something so, menial to create a rap sheet or get caught up in a system that I'm trying to keep people out of, Well, I know, it just so happened to happen on a day that I wasn't in my suit. I was kind of hanging out, came from a block party, got approached by 3 officers, and they said, where's the beer bottle? I'm like, what beer bottle? They're like, we saw you drinking a beer. And I said, okay, listen, man. First of all, I don't even drink beer, okay? And if I did, I wouldn't be crazy enough to drink it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the streets of Harlem.
Yeah, outside.
Across the street from a police station of all places.
That's not smart at all.
So, we ended up, he was kind of getting, kind of aggressive. But what I seen was, it was 2 white rookie officers and a black officer was in the front, kind of like, okay, this is how we do in Harlem,
Mm-hmm.
That was the whole vibe going on with the body language, and I was reading, and I'm like, so I'm trying to yo, listen, man, I don't drink beer. I wouldn't be crazy enough to do it in broad daylight in home. So he starts getting aggressive. I'm like, all right, now, first of all, unless you're able to substantiate that claim, you can't even, any words that you say to me beyond this point is harassment.
Right.
And once he realized I knew that, he was like, oh, you're a tough guy. And I said, no, I'm not a tough guy, but I know my rights. And you just said that you saw me drinking a beer. All right? There's no bottle around me or anything like that. So moving forward would only entitle you to be able to show me this beer bottle or else we can't go any farther than that. So I said, he's kept on going. So I said, all right, technically, if you want to be technical about it, if I was drinking a beer in your face right now, there's only two things you could do. You could ask me to pour it out, or you could write me a $25 ticket. You can't arrest me because that's not an arrestable offense. He said, oh, yeah? And later on, my lawyer told me don't ever tell a cop that they can't arrest you. Even if they can't, just don't tell them that. Because, this cop literally pulled out his handcuffs and grabbed my wrist. And, I pulled back. I said, well, why am I being arrested? He couldn't tell me. I said, well, guess what? If you can't tell me why I'm being arrested, then you really can't arrest me.
You was a smart one.
So he grabbed my arm again. When I pulled back the second time, he said, resisting arrest. I said, hold on. You can't go from A to C without B. B is substantiating the reason for your approach was the beer bottle that you cannot find, so we cannot go to C now. Okay? Matter of fact, I need to talk to your supervisor. Oh, yeah. So then he pushed me up against the wall. Next thing I know, 3 cops are beating me up. It's like a Rodney King session for like 2 or 3 minutes.
God.
When that's done, the sergeant comes to the scene. I'm like, Sarge, I tried to tell them, but they didn't want to listen to me. So the sergeant's going through my wallet, and he sees my military ID, National Action Network card, NAACP. I mean, every Screen Actors Guild card, Musicians Union. I mean, everything that
you was important.
Well, not so much important, but everything that tells you that I'm not a criminal, or I'm involved with activities and a curriculum that doesn't even allow me the time to get caught up in something like this. So the sergeant's like, did you guys check out his wallet? Oh no. So I'm like, okay, look, the damage is done. So the sergeant, he's like, oh, we're not going to arrest you. We just want you to come down to the station for a couple of questions. I said, okay, well, if I'm not being arrested, take the cuffs off. I'll meet you guys at the station. They're like, oh, no, we can't do that. Once they got you in the cuffs, it's like, So I get to the station, and they break the news that I already knew they was going to say, oh, we're going to have to process you. I said, listen, the damage is done. Let's just wrap this up. It went through the whole central booking, the tombs, the night court, and I was released on my own recognizance. I pled not guilty because I didn't commit the crime. They were trying to give me a year on Rikers.
For a beer bottle?
Yeah. And, but see, ultimately, this is something that normally gets thrown out. In a lot of cases, I can, the youth, when they get caught up in a situation like this, they're so used to saying, okay, guilty, just so they don't have to go to jail or so they can get out of jail.
That's
no jail time? Okay, I'll take the plea. And this is a systematic approach that has been kind of, they've been programmed this way to say, look, I'll take the charge, just don't, as long as I don't got to go to jail. And they'll oh, you ain't got to go to jail, but, the second time around, this is going to add to the next crime. And it's going to build that rap sheet that goes from a violation to a misdemeanor to a felony. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And they don't look at it like that. They look at it as, oh, I'm getting over right now. I don't got to go to jail. But, one thing I always tell the youth, don't ever plead guilty to a crime that you didn't commit. Look at Corey Weiss from the Central Park 5. He was saying innocent all the way until 15 years later. And he... 2 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, like I was saying, the convention's coming up, and I remember last week or the week before that, we were talking about the youth and what are the different things, or like the 5 top things that affect the youth. So, what do you think are the 5 top things that affect the youth?
There's a lot of things that affect the youth. But
5 major.
5 major. I think that one of the things that affect the youth, influence. And under that umbrella of influence, there's about 25 things, you know.
I say home situation.
Yeah, you know, I think that, especially looking back at music, video games, television, you know, these are different areas. Not to blame it on media, but media has a major effect. The visual spectrum is something that the youth really relies on and really, you know, is very susceptible to. When they playing these video games where they shooting, the simulation is so real sometimes that they actually really think, wow,
They think that they're in it.
you know, and that's a bad thing because, you know, I've been in the Army, I've been in battle, and it's like you think you know until you really on the battlefield, you know. I think that some of the music, I think that a lot of these artists don't have a really good understanding of the detriment of influence that is being projected in a negative perspective, you know. So if we could just really create a bar, positive rap, reinforcement. I mean, there's enough damage that's been done. We could stop right now and not do any more gangster rap or any more negative rap, and press.
Thank you.
And, you know, have a good night.
Wonderful
Thank
show.
you.
All right.
You know, I love the club. It's the reason I'm here. It's taught me so many lessons, and I can talk about it in a positive way and an honest way for the rest of my life. You know, in a community or in a town, your role models are the people that you deal with, that are in your face, that you talk to, that you can ask questions to, not necessarily some basketball player or actor on screen. So I had great role models, Billy Thomas and all the gentlemen that worked with us, going all the way back to when I first joined in 1959. Yeah, in our club, I think Billy Thomas started it in our club. He would go put up all the pennants when anybody went away to college. They brought back their pennant and they would put it up on the wall, and it was actually the hallway going into the gym. So after a while, they're getting more and more and more, and it allowed you to imagine, you know, places that you'd never been to or thought about. Like we had a guy who actually played in the NBA, Gus Williams, won a championship with the Seattle Supersonics back in the 70s.